the women all go together because you guys keep wandering upstream," she said. Apparently, I wasn't the only guy who didn't understand the rule. The women would head upstream, try to find large boulders near the edge of the water to hide behind, and then form a half circle facing outward, surrounding the woman whose turn it was to pee. When a guy would approach, the women standing guard would yell, "Skirts up, pants down, geez!" The river has a slight tide, a daily rise and fall in level due to Glen Canyon Dam releasing water at different rates during the day. There were times when the tide was out and left a band of wet sand at the shoreline. The wet area made it difficult to pee so that you hit the river without having to step or squat in the mud. In those instances, hitting wet sand or mud was acceptable. Depending on the time of day, the women weren't always required to pee in the river. If our camp was set up and they didn't like the idea of hitting the river, there was a pee bucket in the latrine area. The crew also provided us with small blue buckets we could take to our campsites in the evening to pee in, rather than trying to make our way to and from the river or latrine in the middle of the night. On our first night out, I thought this was a ridiculous idea, and decided it would be much easier to stand at the edge of the river and do my business. So, at 2:00 a.m., half asleep, in a strange place, without wearing my contacts, I stood on the uneven sand and nearly went face first into the water. My middle-of-the-night close call taught me to be sure I knew where my little blue bucket was before falling asleep. Peeing, though, wasn't the greatest source of concern amongst the passengers. After the pee talk, Andy explained the rest of the latrine setup. Each day, when we landed at our campsite for the evening, the crew would find a secluded, out-of-the-way area to place the potty. The system was well thought out. At a safe distance from the toilet, there was a hand-washing station, which consisted of hand soap, a bucket of filtered river water, a spigot connected to a foot pump, and a drain bucket. Everyone coming out of the latrine must wash his or her hands. The crew also placed roadside reflectors along the trail leading from the hand-washing station to the latrine. The reflectors were a lifesaver when it was dark out. The toilet was a small box about 2 feet by 2 feet wide and the height of your toilet at home. If you don't have a toilet at home, I'm sorry. It had a lid that could be sealed shut to keep the contents contained when the crew carried it to and from the raft. Campers and river-goers have nicknamed these boxes groovers. Why groover? There was a time when they didn't have butt-friendly seats. The box had just a hole at the top, and the edge of the box would leave a groove on the user's bottom. Finally, after years of grooved backsides, some genius came up with the idea of attaching a traditional toilet seat to the box, and no more grooves, but the name stuck. Andy explained that our groover was a chemical toilet, meaning that chemicals are applied to the waste to reduce odor and speed the composting process. Next to the groover was a plastic container of white powder that you sprinkled onto the contents of the toilet after you're finished. Andy explained, "You just sprinkle this white stuff on, what you left in the box. Kind of like sprinkling powdered sugar on a donut." Nice. I could have lived without that imagery. That's how the latrine got the nickname the Bakery. The groover was for number 2. There was a pee bucket next to it for number 1. It was acceptable to put toilet paper from your groover business into the groover. It was not acceptable to put toilet paper from your pee business in the pee bucket. That had to be placed into a separate plastic bag so it could be packed out. The reason for this, of course, was that the pee bucket got dumped into the river when we broke down camp, and you can't dump toilet paper in the river. We only had one toilet paper in the pee bucket violation on the entire trip. Lolly. She forgot and violated the